Okay. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to Align Health Insights. This is episode number 3, and I have one of the founders of Solstice with me here today. This is Aris. Aris, say hello to the audience.
Hey everyone, great to be on, Mark.
Yeah, it's great to have you, and it's been great getting to know you over the past year. I really like what you guys are doing. A lot of these automation use cases are great, but this one, automating marketing ops, starting with medical legal review, rather, is quite exciting. So we're going to get right into it because I have a lot of questions, and I think Ewan may join us here shortly. So we'll just get into it, and hopefully we'll see Ewan shortly. So could you start by telling us a little bit about your journey into healthcare and what drew you into this field and what keeps you motivated today?
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. So have been interested in healthcare for as long as I can remember since being a young kid. Started initially with some personal experience. Had a pretty rare kind of chronic condition that forced me to see a bunch of providers throughout my life. Initially, kind of thought I'd be in the space kind of more as a care provider, but as kind of started exploring the space more generally, kind of the kind of potential to make an impact in healthcare, plus my personal passion for just technology and innovation, made kind of starting a venture kind of the natural fit. And then met Ewan actually quite a while ago in school, and he similarly has a very similar interest kind of in the space. And so we just started to experiment with a bunch of different ideas, started to talk with a bunch of different people, and kind of quickly realized that if we were going to start a company, there would be no other industry or sector that would be a good fit for us. So as much as it can be a difficult sector to start something in, I think we couldn't do anything else.
Yeah, it's the hardest.
Yeah,
It's
but the
such a
most fun. But the most fun.
it is a lot of fun. I mean, I've been doing this job for 22 years, so I echo that. It becomes somewhat of an addiction,
Yeah.
if you will.
So,
Okay, so take us back to that moment, that spark, if you will, that got you and Ewan to start Solstice Health.
yeah, I mean, kind of counter to, I guess, popular belief. I guess for us, there was no like initial there was no one moment that really created the spark for Solstice. There
Right.
wasn't necessarily an aha moment like, oh
Yep.
wow, this has got to be what it is. I think we were kind of interested in the space broadly. We're actually previously working on something very different, still in the healthcare space, but more so kind of facing providers. For a variety of reasons, decided to transition away from that, and then kind of had an initial interest in just biopharma commercialization, just because obviously myself especially more so coming from a product background always was interested in like the technology, but realized that technology without appropriate use case doesn't really make sense and rarely
Amen.
anywhere. And so kind of we're interested in biopharma commercialization because saw a lot of like interest in AI specifically on the R&D side, but just saw less happening on the commercial side. So it was just kind of intuition that there seemed to just be more opportunity here, but less people targeting it. And so what we did was we just cold reached out to a bunch of people that were experts in biopharma commercialization. So CCOs at biopharma companies, head of marketings at early stage biotechs, etc. And through a series of conversations, realized kind of what we wanted to kind of build. And the initial question was like, why is life science marketing so different from marketing in other sectors? You think about like consumer marketing, it's super targeted, super personalized, very technologically advanced, and we just don't see that in biopharma for whatever reason. And the kind of insight was that that's largely due to the compliance and regulations that kind of are necessary, but also can slow down innovation in the sector. So our goal is to kind of start by helping with that compliance side of
Yep.
things, and then eventually kind of becoming more of a full stack solution.
Makes total sense. So, with your tech expertise, how do you see AI evolving to further transform marketing operations for the healthcare industry in the next, I don't know, 5, 10 years?
Yeah, so I think for like the way where it is right now is that there's a lot of potential to use AI, but I think there are still a lot of kind of bottlenecks that prevent it from being 100% accurate. And given that it's not 100% accurate for a variety of use cases, obviously you can kind of retrofit things to try to make it as accurate as possible. There is a degree of you just need kind of people. I think the co-pilot model we've just seen works a lot better than just the full-on agentic model where you're just letting the AI run loose. It doesn't really work in
Yeah.
the moment. I would not necessarily recommend it. And so the way we see it right now is kind of an augment to traditional workflows, where for us, like with MLR and compliance, it's like we're not replacing the MLR cycle by any means. Our goal is to make it more efficient. But I think later down the line, as the technology becomes more sophisticated, I think there is the potential not to, again, replace the whole thing. I don't think that's ever going to happen. But for certain parts of the workflow that are especially painful and are especially time consuming, those kind of components can be, I believe, fully automated in the future. But humans can then kind of focus on the key kind of aspects that give them the most leverage and allow the technology to take over some of these more manual, mundane parts of the work.
Yeah, I think that was really responsible of you to call out, the imperfections of agentic AI right now, right?
Yeah,
Because, at the end of the day, I mean, the lawsuits cometh.
exactly,
97% accuracy in an industry that's highly regulated mean 3% of the time there's going to be lawsuits.
exactly, exactly.
Well, look, so you guys raised 3.5 million to scale Solstice Health. What's been the biggest challenge in building a team that can execute this vision? And how do you identify talent who can make an immediate impact?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that is the largest challenge is identifying that talent. I think it can be very difficult just because there's a certain degree of like obviously people have resumes, people have hey you and how's it going?
Hey, Ewan, what's going on, man?
Hey Mark, how's it going? Sorry about the
Good.
delay. I was trying to find a quiet area and couldn't find the link to the LinkedIn Live. Apologies.
Listen,
Yeah.
I mean, we're all been working with early stage companies. It's never a perfect process, so we're just glad to have you. Anyway, Aris was kind of just answering a question, based off of your current raise, and how you're thinking about scaling the current team, and how you're identifying talent that can make an immediate impact.
Yeah,
So
and I was just saying that there's a lot of people that have really great resumes, but really that's not really enough. I think especially at an early stage company, you need the intangibles. I think especially matter a lot at the
yeah,
early stage. It's not just like obviously like your prior experiences, etc. They're not irrelevant, but I think beyond that, you also need people that have hustle, people that have determination, people that have resilience, and those things are really hard to measure by a resume. And then also from just like talking to people, even like people are good at saying things, but it's very different to say something and kind of verbally commit to something versus actually being in the trenches and being able to handle it. So
yeah,
being able to appropriately decipher who is more talk and who's actually going to back up that talk with action when you're working with them can be really tough, especially at an early stage company because like the team is only a few people at this point, so every
yeah.
person makes such a big difference. Where you make one or couple of wrong hires and you're screwed. Like you're not really going to be able to come back from that. So I think it magnifies the importance of finding good
Yeah,
quality.
it definitely is like this confluence of like subject matter expertise and then really good uh, values and principles. Really, I mean, at the end of the day, right? If this is a war type scenario, and you have people that are flanking you to the right and to the left that have zero humility, right? And you're going into a life and death situation where one of them may be wrong but can't see past their own hubris. That might be very challenging, right? So, you have to evaluate for these things. I think people that can admit when they're wrong quickly is one of the things that I'm really looking for when I'm focusing on a seed round company as an example. So,
Absolutely.
hey, Ewan, maybe you can field this one. What's one emerging healthcare trend you think isn't getting enough attention right now?
That's a good question. I think a lot of trends aren't getting enough attention in healthcare. I
Yeah,
think particularly in the pharma space, I would say I think the idea of personalization in relation to marketing as a huge opportunity, I guess, for a lot of companies. I think pharma or just like healthcare in general as an industry lags behind many other industries when it comes down to adopting new technologies, just because of issues related to compliance and other kind of regulatory bottlenecks that prevent um, teams from adopting technology appropriately. So I would say um, in marketing, at least in the space that we're playing in, it takes a long time for teams to actually create personalized content just because of the bottlenecks associated with regulatory barriers as well.
yeah,
Eris, you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I think I totally agree. The only thing I would add on is I think there's a lot of focus right now, rightfully so, on cost savings and that being the primary ROI or benefit from like AI and technology in particular. I think that's makes sense in the short term because it's the easiest to kind of grasp. But I think to Ewan's point about personalization, I think there's this whole other like blue ocean of opportunities of net new workflows or net new kind of things that technology unlocks, one of which being personalization, that just get less attention at the moment just because it's harder to kind of visualize or kind of be able to foresee what those potential use cases that unlock these new capabilities would be.
yeah, that makes sense. I mean, with all the regulatory headwinds, right? Pharma, right? They have not really absorbed the impact of the Inflation Reduction Act yet, right? They're still waiting to see what max fair pricing is going to do in the court. So that's probably what's keeping them up in the majority of the evening, right? And we see these headwinds probably as longer term headwinds. You know, the preferred nation status, with pharmaceuticals, a lot of the things that are keeping these major stakeholders up at night are regulatorily driven, right? So more than ever, I think we have seen these automation use cases really highlighting the promise of really immediately affecting the bottom line, right? So it's a good way in, but I agree with you more broadly. Once you get some of that adoption, I think down the line, that's probably where your roadmap will end up going, and you'll get more adoption and pull from your customer. Okay, so look, if you had a magic wand, right? I actually have one. Someone bought me one for my birthday once. It's like a Harry Potter kind of one. If you could fix one thing in the U.S. healthcare system today, what would it be, and why? Why?
Yeah, I think for myself, and I'll let you answer. I think it's a really big question. I think somehow disentangling cost from quality of care, I think would be kind of my answer. I think that's a very broad answer, I know, but I think there's an inherent kind of issue where we
Yep.
provide care and you're kind of incentivized to provide additional care because that's what your kind of reimbursements or compensation are based off of in healthcare. I understand value-based care has been trying to solve this issue for quite a while, and it's been kind of coming. And I think there's a lot of trends kind of that are making it more and more possible now. But I think it still hasn't really addressed the need of where physicians and care providers in general are incentivized to perform more care, prescribe more medications, because inherently that results in a higher reimbursement. And value-based care models, I think it's hard to kind of measure that long-term care horizon. So it's not like I have a solution to this necessarily, but somehow disentangling the kind of cost of care from the kind of returns that patients get would be my answer.
Ewan,
I would
what
echo
do you
that
think?
point. I would echo that point. It's definitely a loaded question. I I just think that in general there are too many players involved in like the healthcare ecosystem that all want to take a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to align incentives properly, just because at the end of the day, that the industry that we're working in is the goal for us is to kind of do good and make, I guess, like make the society, our society that we live in, a better place. And when we involve too many stakeholders that kind of all want a piece of just like take, I think it creates a lot of perverse motives and incentives that affect the patient at the end of the day. So from like the drug procurement process, how patients receive care in a value-based setting, I would say like just removing the middle people who elevate costs.
Right. A lot of these major stakeholders have lobbyists that are just trying to keep things the same. And there are a lot of uh, EHR players, data players that are entrenched, in this ecosystem that are doing the same, right? So it really has become a game of regulatory capture, and it's really hard to upend the incumbents who really are continuing to make revenue and don't really see the value in things changing all that much. But as they say, innovation happens one funeral at a time, unfortunately, but that's true. Practical takeaways here. For healthcare professionals listening, what's one actionable piece of advice you give them based on your experience?
Yeah, I think for me, it's like, I think would be try to be as educated as possible about whatever kind of applies to your specific domain. So whether that's as a care provider, as someone starting a company, whatever it is, at the end of the day, it's up to you to make the right decisions for your stakeholders. But in order to make the right decisions, it's important to just be educated as possible about the issues. I think it's common to kind of get inputs or get insights from one or a couple of different channels, but I think if you're kind of limiting your horizon of just the information that you're intaking, the decisions you make are a reflection of the information that you've digested. So the more diverse set of kind of information you can digest, and the more you can kind of internally be educated, at the end of the day, it's your decision to then, it's up to you to then make the right decisions. But I think if you don't have the proper inputs, it's impossible to make that right decision. So very broad piece of advice, but that's what I would recommend.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good, strong convictions loosely held based on, new inputs and new information that could change one's opinion on things. I love it. Look, I know this is getting a little away from life sciences, but what do you think patients or the general public can do to better navigate or advocate for themselves in today's healthcare landscape?
Yeah, really good questions, Mark. I would say I think there are a lot of there's a lot of information out there for patients in
Yeah.
general, and it's like easier now than ever to access content, online resources, and everyone is trying to educate and like proclaim that they're experts in a certain disease area or a certain specialty. I would say as a patient, I mean, I'm not speaking from any kind of personal experience, but like as a patient, uh, I were kind of navigating this landscape, I would try to figure out what sources or primary sources of education I want to rely on, and then lock into kind of using those references, whether it be like a healthcare provider, if you some patients want to only access information from their primary care provider, some patients trust, for example, their pharmaceutical company or like their someone that they're working with in the past for like a disease awareness group. So figuring out like how to access truthful and verifiable sources of information to be able to manage their disease better would I would say is kind of a strategy I would.
Yeah. Yeah. Trust is huge, right? And trusted sources of information. It's a really big opportunity. Uh, okay. So, um, what resource, book, tool, or strategy have you guys found invaluable to your work that you would recommend to others?
Yeah, I can give maybe, I mean, resource wise, I think people in similar shoes as ourselves. So like others that, again, because it's we're starting a company, I think other founders that have started companies, friends that we've made along the way that we can go to for advice, because no problem is truly unique. Every problem is just a flavor of a different problem. And so instead of trying to like reinvent the wheel in terms of like how to kind of solve something, I think talking to some of our advisors, whether that's like other friends that we have that are advisors, quote unquote, or just like investors of ours, other mentors that we have, etc., has been really valuable. And then I think for the journey in general, I guess one specific resource, I really like this book, "The Hard Thing About Hard Things" by
Oh,
Ben.
I love that by Ben Horowitz, right?
It's a
Yeah,
great.
great
And I
book.
think
I read that.
yeah, exactly. And I think it just like kind of further encapsulates like, especially for us, like starting a company, like it can be really hard. And I think oftentimes that difficulty can make you kind of shy away from it or get demoralized at times. But I think just keeping in mind that long term, this is how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be hard. If it wasn't hard, like it would not be worth it. So I think having that in the back of my mind is always helpful.
Okay. Ewan?
Yeah, it's I would echo all of Eris's points. I think that we try like a part of like what we're trying to build as founders as well as potential kind of um leaders of like a growing company is to kind of embody what Eris just spoke about, kind of doing things not because they're easy, but because they're hard. Setting, for example, regimented schedule for
Oh, yeah.
us to be able to follow, so that like not every day is gonna be like a perfect day. Ultimately, we are doing something that's very difficult, but we have to remind ourselves every single day that we chose to do this. We're free people. We could be doing anything in the world, but we chose to be solving this specific problem and building this specific problem and working alongside these people that we chose to work with. Everything that we do every single day is because we made the active choice every single morning to wake up and do that thing. And it's important to remind ourselves that like, okay, it's very difficult, but we have to enjoy the process as well because
Yeah.
ultimately, like, if we didn't want that, like, like we would be doing something else.
That resonates so deeply with me. You have no idea. But I think the two things I want to say based on what you guys said is Mike Tyson used to always say, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face.
For sure.
And my favorite book by Ben Horowitz was What You Do Is Who You Are, which I just thought was an awesome book and some great stories of people like Toussaint Louverture and, how he, kind of guided the Haitians to, beat the French in the Haitian Revolution, and just a really interesting book about character. Okay, so what is the toughest decision you've had to make in your career so far? I know you guys are young, but still. And how did you approach it?
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah,
Both of
for,
us are the same, I think.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
probably,
Yeah.
the pivots, I think, what I would say. I think like, you work on something and you're fully invested, and I think that's
Yeah.
always been our mindset, our energies. Like 100% of or your bodies, your souls, your minds into kind of what you're working on. And I think we've gone through this a couple of times, but I think more recently as well, where, Solstice, as I mentioned in the introduction, started with a very different idea, and we're fully invested in that. For a variety of these reasons, decided to transition away from it. But that decision is incredibly difficult, because when you fully invested into something, taking a step back, kind of contemplating, being as honest with yourself as possible, realizing that that X thing is not going to work for XYZ reason, and then moving towards something very different, and then still investing 100% of your body, mind, and soul into that thing is really draining, frankly. But I'm glad that we've been through it. I'm sure that's kind of what Ewan was going to say as well in terms of his artist thing. But I think it makes us stronger as well. So I think toughest thing, but also most worthwhile thing that we've.
I think of like the journey of like it doesn't have to be like starting a company, but like whatever like goal that you set yourself on to accomplish. Would be a sport you want to like qualify for the Olympics, you want to become like the world's best musician or something like that. There's always going to be a lot of uh, you know crossroads where or like kind of paths that you take that end up really going nowhere, and then you have to like turn around and kind of figure out what direction you want to go. Um,
Yeah.
and I would say like the idea of just like going back and forth a couple of times in the initial kind of years that we decided to like start something was very, very difficult just because emotionally, as Aris mentioned, and psychologically, it was us dealing with each other and figuring out how to like work through this together, as well as like navigating our own kind of emotions related to, like having a sort of idea that like okay like maybe like it's like that voice in your head saying sometimes okay what if you're not cut out for this, but
Yeah.
because there's a voice that says that every single day, that is the only reason why we still do it. It's to kind of wake up and make sure that that voice is as quiet as possible, or if at all possible we should shut that voice out, but I think
Yeah.
going back to my point about doing challenging things is more so for us to be able to prove to ourselves that, like starting a successful company, when we do it, will be kind of the single, probably like this one of the single greatest accomplishments that any person, or just like any person, a successful entrepreneur, I look up to them because we understand how hard it is to get from 0 to 1 and from 1 to 100. And so like we just want to prove to ourselves that okay, like despite all the like like the challenges that we experienced in the past, we can like still overcome the challenges and like at the end of the day climb that mountain.
Man, I like you guys, but I like you even more now. Look, I completely understand. I've worked with many startups, but I led strategic partnerships at one almost 10 years ago, and we went through a pivot. Man, was that tough. Also, on the side, at the age of 49, I decided to take electronic dance music courses in producing in Ableton Live 12. And on a regular basis over the past 4 months, I've wanted to throw my computer out the window. And there's this voice in your head saying, you're not good enough. You're not going to, right? But this is what I want. You make your choices, and you have to believe in yourself despite the toughest critic, which is usually ourselves, right? God bless you guys. It's great. I'm glad you guys are doing what you're doing. We need more people like you. All right. So looking ahead in 2025 and beyond, what's one thing you guys are excited about in healthcare and one thing that just really worries you?
Yeah, I think what I'm excited about is like I think there has definitely been like the adoption curve for any new technology can be kind of can take some time. There are obviously early adopters, and then there's like that S curve until it becomes mainstream. I think we're seeing this in the field where like people are becoming more and more receptive to technology, and I think as the technology gets better, rightfully so, because what was not possible a few weeks ago is now possible now, and that technology keeps getting better, and people are seeing that. People saw like the initial versions of even what we're building and where it started, where maybe it wasn't meant for specific teams, to where it is now, where holy shit, it's a lot better, and things are only continuously improving. And that's kind of changing people's mindsets about adopting technology as well. So I think we've been seeing this for like a few months now, but I think this year, especially like the rest of 2025, I think adoption of technology like Solstice, obviously, but also just like adoption of technology in general, I think people are becoming more and more willing to adopt things. So just really excited for that trend in general.
Listen, guys, being aware of time, we have till about 11:40. Can you guys hang out for a little 10 more minutes?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
absolutely.
Well, but we will shift away from, I'm going to point and shoot and ask you a different question. If that's all
Okay,
right. So
sounds
what do you
great.
guys think? This is really kind of an important one. So if you guys both want to answer, I'm okay with it. But like, if the listeners today could take away just one key message from this conversation, right? What would you want it to be?
Yeah, so depends on if it's healthcare related or kind of founder related. But if
You can answer however you want.
yeah, I would say like the idea of iteration. It applies to both healthcare and the industry as a general, but also kind of our founder journey, where the industry is headed is more rapid and more speed of iteration because of kind of kind of added receptivity to adopting new technology, kind of the psychological changes associated with understanding how technology could assist their work and the reallocation of resources. And then from like a founder standpoint, iteration just means kind of being ingrained and entrenched in the process and not at the end result. The kind of the process is the the way that you kind of solve one solution at a time, and if it doesn't work, you kind of move on and figure out uh, what additional added value that you could add to kind of address the problem that you want to solve. So just speed of iteration is something I think is important.
Amen. Amen. Okay. So, do you want to add on anything, Aris?
No, I think that was great.
Okay. Where can our audience connect with you guys and learn more about your work?
Yeah. So I think definitely on our website, solsticehealth.co, as well as on LinkedIn. I think that's where like you and myself are most active sharing updates. We also have a newsletter that's linked on our website if you go to solsticehealth.co. But I think either adding us on LinkedIn or checking out our website and kind of looking at our newsletter. And if you're in the biopharma life sciences marketing space and would love to see a demo, we'd be happy to connect directly and kind of show you what we've built as well.
Awesome. Well, I think you guys are doing great work. Okay, so here's the fun part, and we are at 11:29, but we've got this live reserved till 11:40. So between now and then, we'll, figure out if we can get through these last questions.
Awesome.
You guys could both take this one. I'm just curious. So if you could instantly master one skill, what would it be?
Reading people's minds, I would say.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
That's it.
Say the
That'd
exact
be awesome.
say the exact same thing. That's the most valuable skill, I think.
That's it. You guys hang out a lot.
Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I think it's important to understand other people. I think as we grow and like mature as like kind of founders and just like individuals in general, I think like we've understood the importance of just dealing and working with people. That kind of mastering and being able to perfect that skill will allow us to be able to kind of accomplish more because everything is a team effort. Like nothing is solo work. Everything requires a group of people or a team of people to do and work together to build. So I would say like not even like for a team specifically working together, but interacting with their prospective clients, partners, even family and friends. I think like being able to understand people is the
Yeah.
most important skill.
Awesome. Okay, so I agree. What's your go-to way to unwind after a long day?
We might have similar answers as well, but I would say physical activity. Like I love sports. I love competitive sports, especially so basketball, soccer, working out. I think that would be my primary form of kind of de-stressing.
Awesome.
Likewise. I would say like after a long day, typically we just go to bed because it's pretty late. Uh, but to energize ourselves before a long day would be
That's
like
true.
long endurance sports for me as well.
Yeah, I do the workout in the morning. After work, for me to de-stress, I hit the sauna and then I do some form of cold exposure.
That's
It really feels nice. So what's one place you've always wanted to travel to and why?
Go ahead, Ian.
I need to think about it. Travel the world. One place right now. To be honest, I don't really want to travel right now. I kind of just want to. I've been traveling a lot, so I want to kind of stay put and just focus. I think we don't really have any other goals, to be honest.
Right.
But just working and being able to
Yeah.
kind of complete our goals.
I've been
Maybe
there.
maybe it'd be nice for you to travel somewhere outside of a pharma conference.
One of these days. Okay, first productive thing you do in the morning.
For me, like almost as soon as I wake up, I just really like ingesting information, listen to a podcast or an audiobook. I usually have something on my rotation, so I'll put that in like pretty soon after.
Okay.
For me, it's I wake up and I'm in the pool or I'm on the bike, doing something active.
All right. I do some reflection time in the morning. After that, workout. Those are the first two things. I try to give myself something before I'm able to give the world something.
Absolutely.
For
Um,
sure.
what leader do you most admire in healthcare and why? Or you know what, I can broaden it out and just say even like startup founder, entrepreneur, someone you really admire and you kind of set your true north to.
I think for me, I mean, there's a lot of startup founders. I won't name one of those. I think we had this, you and I had this advisor in college, Dr. Lavisa Mori. She was a professor, but she was also formerly the CEO of a foundation called the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. And I
Oh
think
yeah, in New Jersey.
yeah, absolutely. And I think I personally admired her, not because of any of her accomplishments, which she had many of, but just her willingness to help us and her genuineness
Yeah.
in the way in which she would interact with everyone, not just us. So I think that would be who I'd say.
Cool.
I would say people that we look up to as founders in the healthcare space would probably be the founders of Flatiron, Zach Weinberg,
Yeah.
and Nat
Cameron.
Turner. We
Yeah.
haven't
Yeah.
we haven't spoken to any of them, but I would say like we appreciate the early stages of their founders founding journey to start the company, just because they were two kids out of college, very similar to us, having no experience working in a very political uh, industry that require a lot of traditionally requires a lot of experience and exposure and connections. So I think they were able to defy those norms, and initially early on in our journey we looked up to them because we felt that it was hard to be in healthcare without having.
Yeah. I don't believe there's been a bigger data aggregator exit since Roche bought them. Right. So it was a pretty good one. All right. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received in one single sentence? And then after this, I'll let you guys go.
Just figure it out.
I like that.
I would say, yeah, make sure, I wouldn't say it's someone gave me this advice, but me and Aris talked about it a lot, and we spoke about it earlier during the podcast, ensuring that you push yourself to do very, very hard things and difficult things, and push yourself to do things that are outside your.
Right. Good. Well, there you have it, folks. This has been the Align Health Insights podcast number 3 with my friends Aris and Yiwen from Solstice. You know where to find them. Check them out. You guys are doing great things. Thank you so much for the time today, gentlemen.
Thanks so much, Mark.
Thanks so much, Mark. Really appreciate you organizing.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
Take care.